right, it's 3 o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting to an order. Our first matter of business is to approve minutes from our last full faculty meeting, which occurred on February 25th, 2020. Does anybody have any comments or concerns from those minutes? All right, then, are there any objections to approving the minutes? Okay, with no objections, we'll consider the minutes approved and we'll move on with our meeting for today. First up on the agenda, it's always unfinished business. There was no unfinished business from the last meeting, so we'll move on. Next up is administrative reports. We'll start with Chancellor Engel.
Thank you, Dr. Simmons. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be able to join all of you virtually. I want to thank all of the faculty, all of our academic leadership for what you're doing. You're doing an incredible job under very difficult circumstances. When you look at what's going on around us, we're trying to figure out how to teach hybrid courses, and you're teaching to online students as well as those sitting in front of you. We haven't got all the cameras yet. I know we've gotten them installed now, but we didn't start off that way due to supply chain issues. But it's been a really difficult semester trying to figure out how to reach out to students, how to evaluate their performance. And then over the summer, Easter, we had the tornado, we've had hurricanes, social justice issues, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and more. Our national political climate is sometimes it seems like it's from a movie more than reality. We're in the middle of a global pandemic. So I appreciate the job with all this chaos going on around you, that people have focused on our students, they've focused on doing a great job, and we've made this work. Today we're at 40 active cases of COVID-19 with campus people that we know of, 35 among students, 5 faculty and staff. And we had been up around 120 and we've been able to manage it. I appreciate what everybody's been doing with social distancing, wearing masks, limiting the size of gatherings, washing your hands. I know this is getting old, but we've got to keep it up because it is working. We can manage this risk and I think continue to offer a high quality educational experience for our students. Having said all that, I do want to say congratulations to our faculty and what you've been able to do. That the 6-year graduation rate, when I came in 2013, we were at 37%. We're at 50% now. Our 4-year graduation rate was 16%, and we're now at 36%. We certainly want to get that 4-year rate to 50, but it actually seems doable now when you see we've moved our 6-year graduation rate, that 13 percentage points from 37 to 50. We can do this. First to second year retention was at 76% for this last year. Just phenomenal. So congratulations on working with your students, inspiring them, and getting them to continue to work hard. maybe just a couple of things that I did State of the University address, and I covered some of this, and thanking all of you who own the success. You know, it's fun to have been a part of this. This is a team effort, and we are all in this together. And this entire campus owns what we've accomplished. And as we look at the priorities for the future, I think it's continuing to focus on our students and the quality of their educational experience, paying attention to the outside of the classroom activities, the scholarship, creative activities, the research, internships, being involved in student organization, clubs, activities. You know, one of my favorite is, you know, the rocket mocks, and seeing what that group of students did to start a rocket program here, working with a faculty member. It's phenomenal what they've accomplished, owning the world record, and having beaten some very prestigious universities. They gained so much, you know, talking with them, learned to deal with difficulty, defeat, you know, wondering if they could find the rocket they lost in the swamp. And I think that's what an education provides, is an opportunity for our students to deal with adversity, difficulty. And it takes all of us trying to do as much as we can to engage our students. So, you know, the two things I mentioned in the State of the University, we're trying to offer every incoming freshman student a cohort-based program experience, whether that's a learning community, being part of our honors program, being part of one of the residential colleges in business or engineering, or help us design something that gets students kind of pulled out of the group where they can develop some connections to the university, to their academic experience, and really engage. So cohort-based programs, and Dr. Freeman's working very diligently there with his team and with the entire campus. General education was the other area. You know, our director of general education, Dr. Lauren Ingram, you know, working with the chair of the Faculty Senate General Education Committee, Dr. Talia Welsh, they're already working on this. They're energized. The way I describe the general education experience, I use their words, not mine, to say what they hoped this would be. And I think that trying to have that general education experience be as high a quality as the major experience is something that would serve all of our students well and prepare them to go out in the world and fix all the things that that need fixing. So, and to open as many doors for other students and other people that they come into contact with. So I feel like we're on the right path. We've engaged with this community. We've used it as a laboratory for our students, a place for them to apply what they're learning in the classroom. And it's so much what all of you are doing. You know, the kind of things I hear, our faculty are out working on projects with students, you know, just incredible ideas. And so I appreciate what each of you are doing and taking ownership and having a huge impact on our students and on the Chattanooga community. So I also want to say welcome to our new faculty. And it's a pleasure to have so many new faculty join us. And this is a tough time to come on, to be new. We have a new dean also, Dr. Pamela Riggs-Galasco, who's joined us. what a difficult time, coming in as a new dean. You can feel like you're drinking from a fire hose. I know that's what I felt like as a chancellor coming to UTC. There's so much to learn, and we're having to adapt to virtual work. And so I know for our new faculty joining UTC, you are also at a little bit of a disadvantage, but keep trying, talking to people, try to engage as we're able to relax some of the precautions we have. I hope people will, turn out, take advantage of some of the new spaces we have. Lupton Hall is phenomenal. Just, really nice renovation project. Fletcher, and with the fine arts facility. So thank you for joining us today.
Do we have any questions for the Chancellor? Okay, then we'll move on to Provost Hale.
President Simmons, thank you, and welcome to all of the faculty. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share some information with you today. Before I dive into the information that I have for you, I want to echo the Chancellor's sentiments. As I think about last spring and then heading into this fall, we're tempted to think that the commonality is the pandemic, and to a certain extent that's true. But to me, the even greater commonality is the challenges that it has created for our instructional environment. And I want to compliment you all, and I want to thank you all for all of the hard work that you've done. And I think when I report to you some of the information that I have to share with you, you can take heart in some of the student responses, and certainly I have. And so there are two things I'm going to share with you today. One is a little bit about the pulse survey that we did among students. I know that you saw overnight the results of the faculty survey that was completed, and I'm still making my way through that. I've been in a load of Zoom meetings today, so haven't been able to dive into it quite the way that I would like to. But I will share with you the pulse survey that we did with students, and then I want to share with you some information about the strategic planning process that we are working our way through consistently, perhaps not as quickly as we'd like, but we will still get it done. With regard to the pulse survey, we had 1,768 of our students who responded to a pulse survey that was administered. The pulse survey asked a number of different questions, and let me see if I can summarize the information for you. One of the things that I think is happening on campus is that everyone on campus is feeling greater stress than they have felt in previous semesters and in previous academic years. And the pulse survey indicated to us that that was certainly true for our students as well. So that 53.3% of our students said that they were experiencing more than average or tremendous amounts of stress this particular semester. Our students, always the optimists, and I think a lot of the credit for that goes to our faculty and the incredible work that you've done under very difficult circumstances. Our students, 64.1% of them also agreed or strongly agreed that they were going to excel academically this semester. So even in the stressful environment that we're operating in, our students are confident, and they're confident based on their own performance, but I think they're also confident based on the performance that you've made and the experience that you've provided to them. 36.2% of the students, on the other hand, agree or strongly agree that they feel part of the UTC community. And that I think finding from the Pulse survey is a little bit disconcerting to me, and I certainly know that it's also disconcerting to Vice Chancellor Freeman. He and I are in some preliminary conversations about some additional sorts of things that we can do to really give students more of the sort of opportunity, or at least allow them to connect to the university community in ways that they've not been able to do so far. And we expected a little bit of that because of the decrease in student activities, the decrease in things that were happening in terms of campus life. But it's really not the experience that we want our students to have. And so we're going through some discussions about ways that we might shore that up and other opportunities that we might provide the students. Those of you who've been on my Thursday forums will remember that the way the Pulse surveys have been introduced, at least in discussions, was that this first one was aimed largely at students because we wanted to get some guidance with regard to scheduling for spring classes. Let me tell you what happened there, some of which I anticipated and some of which caught me by surprise. So from that Pulse survey, in terms of what students preferred, for 3, 4, or 5 of their classes, 45% of the students said that they would prefer 3, 4, or 5 classes that met exclusively face-to-face. 37.5% of the students indicated that they would prefer 3, 4, or 5 classes that met online asynchronously. And that one surprised me. If you've been in the forums, you've heard me speculate that that might not be the case, and it turned out to be. In terms of what students did not prefer, the Pulse survey showed us that what they did not prefer was they did not prefer blended hybrid courses or those sort of rotating schedules that many of our classes are operating on currently. And 56.6% of the students told us that they preferred 0 or 1 of their classes in that format. They also did not prefer internet synchronous courses, and 61.6% of the students told us that they would like to have 0 or 1 of their classes in an internet or online format and synchronously at the same time. And so, you know, part of what we took out of the survey and is that our students are being very realistic about the campus environment and the instructional environment that we're finding ourselves in. They know that they're unlikely to have all of their classes in a face-to-face format. And so they're showing preferences both for face-to-face and online instruction of various sorts. And they're also telling us what they don't like. And so I think that was instructive. That was information that we shared with the deans now in the last Deans Council meeting, and the deans were authorized at that meeting to share that information as well with department heads and schedulers for departments and academic programs, so that everyone would have that information as they were beginning to build out schedules for the spring semester as we headed into phase 2 of scheduling. The second thing that I was going to mention to you all was the strategic planning process that we are headed through. And we are still in the process of finalizing 4 faculty work groups, or I should say 4 work groups comprised mostly of faculty, but they will also be comprised of some members of the administration, some staff members, and some students. Those work groups will be working around the 4 goals from our last strategic plan, though they certainly have free rein to go beyond those goals if they would like to, in general thematic areas related to instruction, related to research, related to resources and facilities, and then also related to inclusion and diversity. And from those work groups, the next step in the process is those work groups will report to what we are calling an integration committee. The integration committee will include membership from all 4 of the work groups because it is their work that we are going to be integrating into what we hope will be something cohesive to begin sharing with the larger campus community. And what will happen with that integrated report that is put together then is we'll have a number of listening sessions with a variety of different constituencies across campus, including the Faculty Senate, other faculty groups, the 2 staff councils that we have, various student groups, alumni, and various other groups as well. And that is the process that we are in. We are in the process, as I mentioned, of finalizing what those work groups are going to look like and what their composition will look like. The representatives to the integration committee that come from the work groups will be chosen by the work groups. And so that committee is also at this point still a work in progress. I will be chairing the integration committee and look forward to the input that comes out of the work groups from our faculty, staff, and other representatives on those groups. President Simmons, those were the remarks that I had planned. I'd be happy to answer any questions that people might have.
Do we have any questions for the provost?
I have a question. Provost Hale, I was initially invited to the strategic planning committee stuff. Are we maintaining the same makeup that was on that membership, or are we selecting different people at this time?
I think there's a little bit of both going on. So I think the initial members are still in place and or will able to be in place if they would like to continue that service. But we're also adding to those work groups a bit as well.
Okay, and should I have heard something by now? Are we still, or is the makeup still in the progress or in flux?
I think what's happening now is for people that might be new to the work groups, the invitations are going out to those folks. And we expect that you'll hear something about the composition of the work groups by the end of the week. We're just trying to finalize what the new or added members, who those people will be, and then we'll be pushing out a communication to the entire campus.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question as well with the student survey about their course preference. Is the data available per program? Because I think that would be helpful as well. Just having an overview of an overall snapshot of what students have is helpful, but it would, I think, for programs be more helpful if we knew if you were taking a science course, an English course, what would their preference be?
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's not quite that granular, and with the number of majors and the number of programs we have on campus, we weren't sure that it would be instructive enough if it were broken down by program or major. It is broken out according to college, and at least from my eyeballing of it, and your deans and department heads may feel differently. I didn't see any differences that I thought either were going to be statistically significant or just from eyeballing it looked significantly different to me across colleges. But again, deans and department heads may see the data and interpret them differently than I did. So we have it by college, but not by a specific academic program.
And I have one more question about the strategic planning. With the new memberships that may be added, are there considerations being made to ensure that non-tenured track faculty are on that committee? When I attended the luncheon back in February, and I checked all of the people who were invited to those luncheons, I think I may have been one of only a few, if not the only non-tenure track faculty at the luncheon at the time. Just want to make sure that our voices are represented in this process as well.
Yes, I believe so, but raising the point here, I think, is a very good one, and it's certainly feedback that I'll take back as we finish up that process. And so I appreciate you bringing up the issue, and I'll take it back and double check the rosters and go forward from there.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Provost Hale?
I have a question. Just with all of the information that we're gathering right now from students and faculty, do we have a plan for kind of a lessons learned? Like, we have an opportunity to go into the spring and really work on all the positive things that we've done, because we've done a tremendous amount of really good work. And there, you know, we have all this data. You know, is there a way to kind of gather all those things together so we can kind of move forward with the good things that we've been, you know, sharing that information about what's working and different colleges? I think from at least the faculty survey, we saw that there are some folks that feel like everything's going super well. What are they doing that might be making their results a little better than others? I think that kind of stuff would be helpful to hear.
I'm sorry, it took a while for my microphone to unmute. Certainly with the pulse surveys, which will continue going throughout the semester, we're hoping that there will be continuous lessons that we can take away and things that we can learn from them. And the faculty survey, if you'll remember, was actually administered, I think, by the Faculty Senate. And for those of you who may not know this, Chancellor Engel and I meet a couple of weeks before every Faculty Senate meeting with the Executive Committee of the Faculty Senate. And so I'm sure we'll be having a follow-up discussion about the results of the faculty survey as well. So we are just as anxious to learn whatever we can from all of the data that we're collecting, I think, as I get the sense that you all are. And we'll certainly be trying to do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, if I may. I'm wondering if there's a count of how many students are physically going to class on campus. Is there any estimate?
Yes, and I don't have what that estimate has been so far this week, but I believe, and other members of the executive leadership team who are on the meeting, or any of the folks who are helping with the count, please let us know. But we are reporting to the system, I believe, daily, you know, what the quantity of people is on campus. And I'm not certain whether it's broken down according to faculty and staff and students, or whether it's just an omnibus count of the number of people on campus. But we are paying attention to the campus population on a regular basis.
Any other questions?
So just, sorry, we're doing this through wireless activity because it's pretty consistent, and we're looking at those numbers and separating them by faculty, staff, and students. And the numbers have been pretty consistent. They're around between 4,600 and 5,000 people a day, and employees are a much smaller population. That includes students as they're in their residence halls.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Farnsworth. I didn't see you pop up on the screen until you started to speak. I appreciate the information.
Vice Chancellor Farnsworth, would that only be faculty and staff or employees who are accessing though via wireless? So our desktop Ethernet wouldn't be counted?
Correct.
Okay.
And you know, if we look at a device perspective, there's a lot more than that because many of us have multiple devices.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, any last questions for Provost Hale? Okay, thank you, Provost Hale. Up next is Executive Vice Chancellor Richard Brown. So Richard, I saw Richard Brown was on the call. Are you here, Richard Brown?
Yes, I am. I'm sorry. Muted there. I'm so sorry. First of all, I want to give you an overview of the financial position of the university, our financial health, as we get into the fall of this year. I really want to start by thanking Chancellor Engel and the members of the executive leadership team and all the deans for some outstanding financial stewardship. You know, in order to have a healthy institution financially, it takes a team effort, and we certainly have that here at UT Chattanooga. We started the year off in really good shape, a lot of good budget planning, and then along comes COVID-19. And like most higher education institutions, we had to circle back with our planning. The good news is that we responded quite well to COVID. And I want to stop and personally thank every member of this faculty for stepping up and moving classes into an online format to allow us to continue business continuity. Had the faculty not responded in that way, it would have been a challenge for this institution or any institution financially. So thank you, faculty. Also want to continue to thank the Budget and Economic Status Committee of the Faculty Senate for their continuing work with my office and our Budget Committee in an advisory role. They've been very, very good to give us great advice. I want to start by saying we closed the books, the financial books, this year for 19 and 20 as required by state law in the black. We closed very, very solidly. And I can say to you, the financial health of the university is very, very strong. We say that because for the last 5 years, we've been working diligently to make sure that we've done prudent financial planning, accumulating enough reserves for a rainy day. And with COVID-19, it is raining at the end of the day, but we were able to have funds to be able to apply towards that end. So I'd like to report to the faculty day, the full faculty, our rainy day fund, or what you would consider an emergency fund, stands solidly at $8.2 million right now. I always like to give a benchmark. When I started as CFO, it was only $600,000. I did not know that I wanted the job then, but we've been progressively moving in that direction to make sure that we're financially solid. Again, the quick leadership and effective leadership of the faculty allowed us to continue to deliver courses. As a result of that, our enrollment for the fall held steady, which meant that our financial planning for the year also holds firm. So right now we have field-based budgets going forward this year, and we're moving very, very well. The state of Tennessee also did something very, very good for higher education. Given COVID-19, we were all concerned about the economic conditions of the state of Tennessee. While they required other state entities to have a base budget reduction, they actually held higher education harmless from those base budget reductions. And we're really, really proud of that and grateful for that. We also received about $9.7 million of federal support under the CARES Act to provide things like PPE for our faculty, staff, and students, as well as support students in some of their economic needs. I want to get rid of a few myths. I hear myths out there, and many of you hear those as well. So as the chief business officer, I have to become the chief myth killer across the campus as well. We've been hearing things like you guys are planning for a 2% salary reduction of faculty and staff. Not true. at all. Just put a pin in that one. That's not true. We're also not planning any furloughs of faculty and staff. Because of our strong financial planning, we did not need to go there. So we want to make sure we get rid of those myths. We are starting a new budget and financial planning year right now. We close one budget and then we quickly open another one, and those financial planning options are just now beginning to surface. For faculty and deans, we will be returning back to the faculty reserve funds or unspent funds from F&As, course fees, and other types of discretionary funding for the faculty that were unspent in the budget, which is another healthy sign of strong financial planning across the university. As we start up the base budget planning for 2021, we want to encourage all the faculty to get engaged in that process. We will start that with a town hall budget meeting that Chancellor Engel will present along with myself. We will begin to talk about this year-end close. We'll be very transparent and talk to you about year-end close for all major divisions, as well as other financial issues that affect the university. In December 2020, we're going to have something called Conversations with the Colleges. We did this last year. Great feedback from that particular process, where we sit with the dean and the key leadership of the colleges, with the chancellor and the executive leadership team and the finance staff, to talk about priorities, talk about needs, talk about growth, other kinds of issues going forward that may affect your college for our planning. There are some things that continue to kind of keep me up at night and making sure that we stay financially healthy. We're going into a SAC-COC, reaffirmation of accreditation. We want to make sure that all of our divisions are funded well as we get ready to move towards reaffirmation of accreditation. We're also beginning to look at a new master plan for the campus that will carry the campus another 10 to 20 years out. We're excited about that. And of course, we're excited about what the provost talked about, the new strategic plan. How do we provide financial resources that align with the new strategic plan? And of course, with reaffirmation of accreditation, what will we do with regards to funding the new QEP for the campus? So I bring to you good news that the budget is strong. We were able to do some key things. We found resources for Vice Chancellor Farnsworth to put some instructional technology support in the classrooms, and those things are ongoing right now. We provided PPE and other type of safety mechanisms all across the campus. And I would like to add that if you get a chance to get on the campus, go take a look at some of the newly completed facilities, capital projects. They're just dynamic. Your campus is beautiful. Your campus is made better because you are strong faculty. I'll take questions.
I have a question for Dr. Brown.
Yes.
You mentioned that you had surplus F&A that was going to be returned back. Is that going to be broken down so that PIs that were responsible for bringing that F&A in receive that surplus F&A back?
We're going to centrally send that back to the provost, and he can have those conversations appropriately with his deans.
So maybe I should ask Provost Hale that question. Since you deferred to him, Dr. Brown. Provost Hale, if you care to chime in on that question, my question, please.
Dr. Brown and I do that to each other a lot in meetings. Whichever one of us gets to initially respond to the question, frequently tries to drag the other one into it. I'm going to punt just a little bit, not too far, in part because I couldn't if we were actually punting. But a number of the colleges and departments have procedures and have formulas that they use for allocating the F&A that comes back. And so all I can tell you is that we will be returning the F&A to the colleges, and I suspect that they're going to follow the procedures and the formulas that they have in place. They vary somewhat from one college to the next, and so I'm sorry I can't give you a more specific answer. But if you'd like to follow up, and I can certainly follow up with the deans as well. But
But
I don't
Donald,
wanna-
we will give the provost enough information where he really can see where those funds originated.
Oh,
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
he will get that. He will have that data.
Excellent, thank
and
you.
I
That's what I
don't-
was going to ask that question. So
Okay.
you kind of headed off real quick there, Dr. Brown. Thank you.
Yes.
Perfect.
Other questions for Executive Vice Chancellor Brown? Okay, thank you, Vice Chancellor Brown. Our last administrative report comes from Vice Chancellor Vicki Farnsworth.
Thank you and welcome for the invitation. Great to join you today. Of course, leave it to the IT person to pop up some charts. Charlene, do you happen to have the slides? And the main point is we're not going to talk through the charts. It's for you to have some data that we're looking at, you know, based on even the conversation we just had on who's on campus. We're using the data that we have to tell stories on campus these days. And so you'll see more of that coming from us from an IT world. So of course, all of you care about the lecture capture updates. So 51 of the 74 classrooms are fully ready to go with the equipment. More of them are coming live daily. All the equipment's up and installed, and it's the programming that's being finalized, and we're hoping to have all of that done by this week. We are notifying the faculty that teach in those rooms as those rooms come live. So you'll get a notification if you teach in those rooms. I put the link on here. They're being bolded as they're being installed. And they're supposed to also be leaving in the classroom a note to let you know that it's ready. So our goal is to have that done by the end of this week. The supply chain took a lot longer than expected. And you know, we ended up behind some pretty big orders, unfortunately. So not exactly the story we would like to be telling. It would have been great if it would have been ready. We'd like to get another 20 rooms ready before the next semester if supply chains perform similarly to this one, hopefully better. Next slide. We have offered up lots of technology to both faculty, staff, and students. Not going to go, this is just some data for you to look at. The pie chart is students. We had 288 students that have requested from us. Some of them have had multiple requests. But the intent of this slide is to let you know that the equipment we have is holding. So if you have students that need equipment, if faculty need equipment, a lot of students will be leaving very soon, and Thanksgiving's not that far away. They'll be leaving to take exams. If they need a webcam to take home with them, it's going to be a lot better for them to pick it up before they go home than to have us ship it. We have been shipping in cases where we need to, but there's enough equipment here. People need equipment. Please have them reach out. There are request forms available. We posted something in Canvas, or will be soon, to try to get that note out to students. Last slide. We knew that with social distancing, we would have a lot of lab machines on campus that would go unutilized. You can't sit next to each other in the labs, and so we knew that every other one most likely would have to sit idle. So we brought software in that gave us better utilization data across machines across campus. Not only that, but it would also allow students to connect remotely from wherever they are, be it at home or from their dorm room, connect to those lab machines to get software that they may need. So for the first part of this semester, we've been looking at the data. So across, it's about 1,622 lab machines all across campus. I think almost every department is included in this. This is a utilization. We would like to see those lab machines get more use. And one of our suspicions is that maybe students, faculty don't know that this is available. So getting the message out to allow students to connect from wherever they are to lab machines will make sure that we're getting utilization of resources that we already have on this campus. So just some data to kind of support some of the things that we've been doing technologically to support instruction. happy to take any questions.
Are there any plans to put voice over IP phones as well as card swipes throughout the campus?
Yes, so the VoIP, the voice over IP system is, we've been really reactive. It's from a technical perspective, it's ready to go. Now we're in the rollout phase. How do we start to get phones on people's desks as well as give people options? Maybe a headset and a soft phone is more applicable to you and how you work. So there'll be different options as we come into the more proactive part of the rollout. But yes, we are definitely in VoIP rollout mode. And card access, that's a partnership between facilities and IT and the different departments. I would like for us next spring to take on a project to make some determinations about card access as we move forward. And it's going to be a pretty big group coming together to have that conversation, but definitely on our list so we get to some consistency and can provide better information on how it's being used.
Other questions for Vice Chancellor Farnsworth? All right, thank you very much. Are there any other administrators that I missed? Or anything else you want to say, Vicki? Sorry. Okay, then I'll move on with a quick report from the Senate, because I'll put that under administrative reports. So what has the Senate been up to? We did have a called meeting in July where we adopted a COVID syllabus statement for the fall. We purposely only adopted it for the fall semester. We said we would revisit the issue in October, which means it's time to revisit the issue and see if such a statement is needed in the spring. So the Faculty Senate Executive Committee and I are currently finalizing a very brief survey. We're thinking just 3 questions that we will be sending out to the faculty, asking for your input. Do we need a COVID-19 absence statement in spring syllabi or not? If we were to have a statement, should it be the one we had from the fall? Should it have changes? So pretty quick, hopefully couple questions, but will give the Senate a lot of information about whether we should adopt another statement and what that statement should look like. We have, of course, a lot of committees in the Faculty Senate that are working hard. I did charge several of the committees with additional items beyond their normal activities. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of those really quickly. So for example, we have asked the Course Learning Evaluations Committee to do a report on how racial, ethnic, and gender bias presents in teaching evaluations. We've asked the Budget and Economic Status Committee to conduct an analysis of faculty pay, comparing salaries based on race, ethnicity, and gender. We've asked the Undergraduate Admissions Committee with producing a report on bias in standardized tests like ACT. And actually some of that work was already being done by Vice Chancellor Yancey Freeman, and so they're actually talking to the Student Affairs, and we may have something about that soon. And then the General Education Committee had already charged themselves with looking at efforts to expand equity and diversity requirements in general education. So our committees are just getting going. They all have their standard charges, and then a few committees have additional charges. So in my role as faculty president, I also serve on several other organizations which are busy doing work as well. Just last week, the UFC, which stands for the University Faculty Council, which is a group of faculty representatives from the UT campuses. So the UFC is just UT campuses. We meet once a month to talk about issues on our campuses. We brought up the issue of 9-month sick leave, or the fact that no 9-month faculty receive sick leave in the UT system. This is an issue that the UT system has been exploring for several years, but has failed to move forward on. And so we have drafted a resolution and we'll be voting on it next week. Our resolution is pretty simple and straightforward. It calls on the UT system to adopt a sick leave policy for 9-month faculty. We hope to finalize this resolution and send it to the UT board as an informational item for their upcoming October meeting. So it's not to say we have any power to change anything, but we're going to be calling on the board and the system to make that change.
Charlene,
Also,
can I ask a quick question about that? Is it
Sure.
just sick leave or is it sick and parental leave, this resolution?
So we framed it as sick leave, but that's because the UT system frames sick leave as covering all forms of leave, including maternity and paternity leave.
Okay, thank you.
Tufts is the Tennessee University Faculty Senates, and it's where the representatives from the Senates from all the public 4-year institutions come together and meet. We meet several times a year. We happened to meet just last weekend, and it happened to be the same weekend that the National Council of Faculty Senates were meeting. So we kind of doubled it up, and we attended national meetings and we attended Tennessee meetings. Some of the conversations that were had both at the national level and then at the state level were related to workloads and how significantly workloads have changed, particularly with COVID. And so we have decided in Tufts to do a statewide survey. We're just beginning to draft it, so this is something we'll probably send out more November. But essentially a survey with 3 purposes. The first purpose would be to document how much work faculty do in the summer in a non-COVID year. So we'd actually ask, how much work do you do in an average week in, let's say, summer 2019? How much work did you do on preparing to teach for the next semester, on teaching if you're teaching summer school, on doing research, on doing service? So that would give us a baseline, and it would be a useful information when legislators ask us, what do faculty do during those 3 months that we're quote unquote on vacation, which we all know it's not vacation. So we want a baseline to be able to say, this is what faculty do. We're also going to be asking, is it compensated or uncompensated? So we can get a baseline on just how much uncompensated work is done in the summer. Then we will ask you to report how much time on average did you spend doing those activities this past summer, so impacted by COVID. So we can run some analysis and track the changes that came for COVID. And then we're going to ask questions related to this fall, and essentially how much has your workload changed? Similar, the fall questions will be similar to the questions we asked in our own UTC survey about, are you spending, more or less time on certain tasks than you normally would? So our goal there would be to get some baseline data for the whole state, and then campuses could use that information. Also, we as a group could use that information. We could use it when we talk to legislators. We were thinking about creating a report, maybe releasing it publicly, hopefully in an attempt to maybe end the myth that 9-month faculty have 3-month vacations. So that's where the Senate stands right now. I mean, there's a lot more to come from the Senate. The committees are just getting working. And so we expect to have a lot more coming up as we go forward. We particularly expect a lot out of the handbook committee. I forgot to list all the charges that the handbook committee has. They have quite a few charges. And so I expect over the next few months, we'll be receiving things from the handbook committee. Do I have any questions about the Faculty Senate and what we're up to? Okay, then we have no committee reports because committees are busy working and haven't reported out yet. So let's move on to new business. First item on new business is the faculty survey. So I did send around the results I apologize, I have not yet finished processing all of the open-ended responses to 2 out of the 3 questions. I'd hoped to finish, a second one today, but it just got away from me. So I will, over the next few days, be pulling in the results from the last 2 short answer questions. But I think we can already see some pretty major results from it. I'll also say that even though I'm the one that processed all the data, I'm still sorting through it and trying to make sense of it. So this is just my initial look at it. I think all of us will need to spend some time over the next few weeks processing it and seeing how we're going to move forward. But here's the big picture. No surprise, faculty are very stressed, more stressed than past semesters. We've seen significant changes to our workloads. A lot of people spent far more time working on teaching over the summer, preparing to teach for the fall semester than they have in past summers. Faculty who do research reported doing less research than they normally do in a summer. And as far as the current semester, faculty are again reporting doing a lot more hours of work on teaching, and for those that do research, less hours doing research. One of the short answer questions I was able to process was the one about challenges facing face-to-face, faculty who are teaching face-to-face classes. And there were quite a few challenges that were identified, everything from relating to technology, student attendance. So we're gonna really be looking through those. And for me, that's one of the highest priorities for this survey, is to identify those challenges and then begin working at solving those challenges. And so we'll be having conversations with the provost, with the chancellor, with others over the next few weeks to see how we can fix those problems, how many of them we can get fixed for this fall, and how many of them can we stop from happening in the spring. And then the question that I'm still processing from a short answer perspective, but we have data from the multiple choice questions, is related to how faculty feel supported by their administration. Most faculty expressed support from their departments and colleges. The greatest support was on the department level, but even a majority of faculty expressed support from their college. The least amount of support was expressed at the upper administration division. And I think that the short answers will provide an explanation of why and where we could improve so that faculty will feel supported. So what am I going to do with these survey results? Because I do want to do something with them. It's not simply a task to collect information. So I'm starting to list my priorities. The most immediate priorities are going to be trying to resolve those challenges that face-to-face faculty are facing, identifying them and trying to resolve them so that we can have better experiences for those of us that are teaching in the face-to-face classroom. One of the big issues that's particularly coming up through the short answers that I'm processing related to feeling supported is that faculty want choice in teaching modalities. And of course, we are in the middle of scheduling for the spring. And so I will be advocating for faculty choice in selecting teaching modality. And then one of the interesting comments that popped up yesterday, there were a couple comments in the short answer questions, was about childcare. Really wanting to be able to talk to other faculty and staff and find solutions to child care issues, because so many faculty and staff are struggling with this, particularly with the school system a bit in, some students are going to school and some aren't. So I would like to do town halls throughout the year and identify different topics. And so probably the very next town hall that I will be hosting, Stephanie Todd will be hosting one for the non-tenure track faculty, but the next one I will probably host will be related to child care, just to give faculty, staff a chance to come together, talk about the issue, and maybe start brainstorming solutions. I don't have the answer. I don't have children, so I'm going to leave this to a lot of other people to give us ideas, but we need to find some solutions so that faculty can, have some child care while they're performing their jobs. There are also long-term priorities. They won't be solved in the next few weeks, but they're definitely on the long-term calendar. Workload is a big one. So we are already talking about workload and trying to get the the process of defining a workload policy going again, something that was tried a few years ago but failed. We're already talking about that, but also we need to talk about it in terms of how has workload changed in COVID and what adjustments can we make. A big thing for me is how are we going to document this when it comes time for the annual evaluations, so EDOs for faculty. And I plan to, with the help of many others, pull together tips for faculty on how to document all the different impacts on COVID when we do our performance evaluations. Everything from, we have to remember that the pandemic started right after we finished last year's EDOs. And so we have to wind back the clock and remember all the things we did in the spring and not count them towards this year. So look for that. We'll be sending that out later when we get closer to the annual review, and I'll be asking faculty for their input about tips about how we can kind of document the impact of COVID in our annual reports, because it's something we will be dealing with for years when we're coming up through promotions for all different full-time faculty, and then for tenure and on post-tenure reviews. So that's kind of my thoughts on the survey. Do we have any questions or comments about the faculty survey?
Charlene, I have a quick question. So are you going to send the results to the administration? I'm assuming so.
So I already did. They actually got it a few hours before the faculty did. I sent it to all the vice chancellors and all the deans, and I will, as I fill in the short answer questions, I will be sure to send them updates.
Will we be able to see some of the short answer questions in the responses?
Yes. So the document that the link I shared, that's the Word document on SharePoint. And so actually that link will continue to be updated anytime I make an update to the Word document, everybody sees it. So the 2 short answer questions that I'm still processing, once I drop those in, everybody will be able to see them. And I can send an announcement out through Canvas just saying, here's the update from those 2 questions. So everybody knows it's there.
Thank you.
Other questions about the survey or comments? Okay, moving on to others in new business. First up, Christina Vogel. She is the UT Board's faculty representative on the Education, Research, and Service Committee, and she's going to report on their activities.
Thanks, Charlene. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Christina Vogel, and I'm an associate professor in the art department. And as Charlene mentioned, I'm serving on the Education, Research, and Service Committee this academic year. The ERS committee is a standing committee of the UT Board of Trustees, and the committee has a broad focus. So it addresses matters related to academic programs, faculty, student success, student conduct, research, service, and outreach. So in my role, I'm a voting member and also the sole faculty member across the UT system. And so this is a role that rotates to one of our campuses every year, and a faculty member is appointed. Of course, as faculty, our work through teaching, research, and service is incredibly wide-ranging. So fortunately, I'm not meant to speak for all faculty, but instead give my perspective and based on my experience. And I'm happy not only to have the opportunity to represent UTC, but also offer my voice as a practicing visual artist and educator and creative researcher. As part of my role, I also serve on the University Faculty Council, the UFC, along with Charlene, as she mentioned before, and Beth Crawford. We have not met as an ERS committee yet. We're going to meet soon, so I'll have more to share with you later. But if you're interested in knowing more about the committee or any of the board committees in general, I will include a link in just a moment in the chat where you can read more about it. If you're not able to access the chat, you can always go to the UT board website for more information. And so just in closing, I greatly appreciate this opportunity to serve. I want to thank Chancellor Engel and Provost Hale for entrusting me with this responsibility. And thanks also Charlene for the opportunity to talk a little bit about it.
Do we have any questions for Christina Vogel about her role? Okay, so the UT board has its committee, the ERS committee. The UT board also has advisory boards at the campus levels. And so Gretchen Potts has been serving on the UT advisory board for the last 2 years. She's not here today, she's in class. She has given me one quick update. She is rolling off the advisory board. Jamie Harvey will be taking over instead. It always falls to the past president, but every other past president. So Jamie Harvey has to serve next year while I get to go on vacation. So as far as the advisory board goes, the advisory board, one of their tasks is to make a budget recommendation. So this is what Gretchen Potts gave me. Their big task in May was to make a budget recommendation. This is the budget recommendation that the university had made. The advisory board looked it over and then moved it forward to the board. You can see the numbers there, $270 million budget. The big things were that we did not do a tuition increase this year. There was a slight fees increase. So that'll just kind of keep you up to date. Vice Chancellor Brown has mentioned he'll be doing other presentations where he'll give far more detail. And he's going to be actually attending the October Faculty Senate meeting where he will provide us with a little bit more detail. I don't know if you want to say anything about this chart, Vice Chancellor Brown.
Dr. Simmons, the only change is that the $14 fee increase did not occur. We had 0% fee increases across the board. So.
Thank you. I will update that.
No, you don't have to. That's their recommendation. It just not get approved off the campus.
All right, and so you can see faculty has representation at different levels, and we'll continue to ask the different UTC faculty who serve on these different committees to give us updates like when we meet in February. All right, next new business, Mary Marr. She was speaking during the provost Q&A on Thursday, and I went to leave the meeting and accidentally ended the meeting for everyone, and so cut her off. So I invited her to come here so she could speak about the optional midterm surveys and finish what she was saying at the provost Q&A. So Mary Marr, take it away.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. Yes, the Walker Center is available to help faculty. You just reported that they feel like their workload has increased, and we don't want to do that. I have a template of questions, and I'm happy to push it into their class or share it with them, just the typed questions. So we have a variety of ways that we can share if they would like to add a midterm survey. A few years ago, when I came to UTC, I was able to speak with Dr. Jennifer Ellis, and she really got me going with these and explained a lot of the benefits, and she's been a great resource. And we are available tomorrow. I'm having a workshop from 12 to 1. It'll be on Zoom. And but also if somebody wants one-on-one help, we can also do that. So of course the questions are prepared for your Canvas space, but if you need them in some other format, I'll be glad to help with that. And I would encourage you to consider adding a midterm survey. This is just for you. It's not related to the survey at the end of the evaluations at the end. And one of the benefits that's come out of doing midterm surveys is that it gives the students a chance to let you know what their experience in your specific classes. And if they have questions or concerns, it gives you an opportunity to specifically address anything that's happened to them so far. Maybe they've had a technical problem, or they're confused about attendance. So it's very personalized to each of your classes, which can be very helpful. You don't have to promise that you're going to change anything. You might just take it as an opportunity to explain your rationale for the way things work in your class. But I would encourage you also to plan that after the midterm grade window, you give them a couple days to do the survey, and then you plan to take at least a few minutes to address what they've told you in the survey. So another benefit is that after the survey, they may be more likely to contact you and ask for help. So it can really improve the relationship that you have with students and kind of smooth the path for a better second part to the semester. And I'm happy to take questions. I'll put my email in the chat, but just let me know how I can help.
All right, any questions for Mary Mar?
And Dr. Ellis is giving a example in the chat, and I really appreciate her input as well. Thank you.
Our final item under new business is new faculty introductions. It's a tradition that new faculty are introduced at the fall faculty meeting. I have a confession. I completely forgot about this until Sunday. So I forgot to ask the deans to prepare a list of new faculties to introduce. So we've come up with a solution. The solution is we're gonna allow new faculty to introduce themselves today in just a second. I'm also going to collect information about all new faculty because not everyone can attend today. And we're gonna build a website with information about each new faculty member. And then I'm also planning sometime in October, hopefully, to have maybe a virtual mixer where faculty can come together and meet new faculty members. So since we don't have a list, because we didn't have time to get the deans to compile all the bio information as usual, what I'm going to ask for new faculty to do, so if you're a new faculty member on the call, if you could identify yourself, and if you click on participants, a participant panel will pop up. And if you have some choices, there's a yes, no button. If you could click yes, if you're a new member, a new faculty member who wants to introduce themselves, and it's voluntary. If you're a new faculty member who wants to introduce yourself, if you could click on participants and then look for the little green yes button, click on that. It'll pop up in my panel and I'll call on each of you one by one and give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. You can say whatever you want, but it's an opportunity for you to introduce yourself to new faculty. So take a second, click yes, and we'll see who we get. Okay, first up, and I'm just going by what I see on my screen. First up is Tony Sepak.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tony. I'm Charlene's colleague in the Department of Communication. I just moved here from Michigan over the summer, where I finished my PhD at Michigan State University. I love the campus. I love my colleagues so far. It's been an interesting semester to start on the faculty, but so far so good. And I'm just really happy and excited to be here.
Next up is Frank Tudini. And if I say people's names wrong, I'm sorry. I'm really bad. I never learned phonetics, so I'm really bad at trying to figure out how to pronounce words I've never seen before. So Frank, sorry if I got your last name wrong.
No, that was fine, Charlene. Thank you. Yes, my name is Frank Tudini. I just started here officially August 1st in the physical therapy department, but I worked a little bit helping out over the summer. I'm an associate professor, and I'm currently teaching 3 classes and taking the pedagogy class. And I come from the Raleigh-Durham area. Thank you.
We can't see you, Frank.
Oh, I do have my camera on. Let me see. I have my camera.
Why?
Oh, you know why? Because I'm looking at my monitor.
There you go.
You got to see my polo shirt. Is that better?
And you have to forgive my colleague, Felicia McGee. She's a TV reporter, so she's very much about perfect camera shot composition.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Up next is Chris Silver.
Yeah, I've been here a minute. Old wine, new bottle, but I'm very, very glad to accept an assistant professor position in learning and leadership with my colleagues, Dr. Crawford, Dr. Roush, Dr. Harbison. And UTC is my home, and I just have to say how excited I am to finally land a full-time faculty tenure track gig. And thank you to my colleagues and my students for making this happen. So.
All right, up next is Grace Stanford.
Hello, I'm Grace Stanford. I just started here in August in the occupational therapy program. So I actually just graduated from the program in 2018. So was a student and then now I'm faculty, and I'm happy to be back.
And next up is Megan Hartline.
Hi everyone, I'm Megan Hartline. I'm a new assistant professor in the English department where I specialize in rhetoric and professional writing. I'm moving here from Hartford, Connecticut, but moving back to the South. I'm originally from Texas, did my PhD in Kentucky, so I'm excited to be here in Tennessee. I wish I was getting to meet all of you in person, but alas, maybe someday.
And finally, we have Yinfeng Wang.
Hi everyone, my name is Yingfeng Wang. I am a new associate professor of computer science and engineering, and very nice to meet you, and thank you very much.
All right, did I miss anyone else who's new faculty? If you want to speak up. All right, well, we do welcome all of you new faculty, and we will try to have some kind of mixer, because I recognize one of the biggest problems we're having, particularly for new faculty, is getting to meet each other and interact. And so hopefully we'll have a mixer virtually, where at least some of us can have an opportunity to talk to each other and meet each other. That's it for new business. Up next is faculty concerns, and I open the floor to any faculty member to express a concern. I feel like we need some Jeopardy music. I thought people would be jumping in by now. No faculty concerns? Okay, well, if you have a faculty concern at any point in the year, there's a number of ways you can express your faculty concerns. If you go to the Faculty Senate website, you can just Google UTC Faculty Senate. You'll be taken right to our website. There's a couple different ways you can express faculty concerns. You can reach out to a Senate member. So we have our senators listed. There are Senate members representing divisions. So I'm in communication. So that's the humanities at this school. So I could choose to reach out to my humanities professors, representatives. There's also senators that represent ranks of or grouping of people. So at-large members. So maybe you reach out to an at-large member. So for example, there's a couple that represent non-tenure track faculty. You can, though you can reach out to any senator that you want to reach out to. You're not restricted. So that's one way. Another way is to reach out to me directly. So my email address is up there. You can email me. I'm available also by phone and by Zoom. If you email me, then we can sort out other ways if you want to do it off email. And then also, if you want to submit an anonymous faculty concern, we have set up a form. It's linked to from the Faculty Senate website. You can submit your concern there. It does not collect any personal information. I do not know who you are. When you submit it, if you can leave your information if you want me to contact you back, but if you leave that blank, I have no idea who you are. Then I can pass on those concerns. All right, a couple of quick announcements. The Faculty Senate does meet once a month, the third Thursday of the month. All are welcome to attend. Happens at 3:10. All of our meetings this year are on Zoom. We post our agenda with the link, the Zoom link on our Senate website and send it out by email. We encourage everyone to attend if you can. Those sessions are also recorded and put on the Senate's YouTube page. So if you can't attend, but then you want to rewatch it later, you can. And that we have links to that on our webpage. We will be conducting a survey, the COVID-19 absence statement policy, whatever you want to call it, survey. Expect to see that either later this week or early next week. Again, it'll be a very quick and short survey, but to get feedback on whether we should adopt a policy for the spring. And then finally, I do want to hold a series of town halls where faculty can come together. Sometimes the town halls will have specific topics for discussion. Other times they will just be open forums to discuss any issues the faculty want to discuss. I do want to host one for childcare. Stephanie Todd's planning one for non-tenure track faculty. If you have an idea about a town hall, please let me know. I'm going to be reaching out to the committees to see if they have one. I'm going to guess one of the topics this year will be Gen Ed. So these are just opportunities for us to come together and talk about different topics that are related to faculty. That's it for announcements. Would somebody like to call for an adjournment? Somebody?
Move adjourn.
Ooh, we had a move and a second. Okay, great, fantastic. That brings to an end our full faculty meeting. Encourage all of you to come to a Senate meeting or a provost question and answer meeting. And we'll meet again as a full faculty in February, unless we need to meet earlier, and then we'll call a meeting. But have a great day.